In the chapter on sense of truth and belief, Stanislavsky was saying that in the real world, the genuine truth and belief they create themselves. On the stage, however, this is something that needs to be prepared. And of course, this is same is true for us musicians. Whether it's just preparing a piece of music and we need to prepare it before bringing it to the stage as an offering to the audience, and something simple as deciding on what attire, what to wear for the concert. That requires preparation too. We need to set some things aside a night before, a week before. Every moment on stage must be convincing to performer. So applying this to music, imagination or imagining can't be random. It has to make sense. Everything has to make sense. Asking ourselves why something is happening or for what reason, what happened before in the previous phrase or before the piece began, what is going to happen in the next phrase, certainly will help us to create something that Stanislavsky calls the inner chain of circumstances, or he also calls it the unbroken line of logic, which will increase our sense of truth and belief in what we do. And this essentially us believing in and sensing the probability of the events that we imagine in our minds that are behind the music that we play, the likelihood of those events actually happening in the piece and in the real life. Actors have actions to perform, or objects to interplay, play with on the stage, interact with on the stage. We musicians, we operate with sounds and silences. So I think it's fair to assume and to imagine and to convert that actions and objects for us is everything that we can hear and everything in between. And I would extend it to walking on and off the stage before performing, because it creates an entire new world of possibilities, and also an extra, as I was referring to it in the earlier video, a shield against anxiety. If instead of carrying our persona with our phobias, worries, nervousness on the stage, awkwardly bowing to the audience and then sitting down or standing up to play into the position, if instead we would imagine that it's music that walks on the stage and we just simply, through our body, the character of the music gets on the stage to deliver a message to the audience. He claims that it is easier to play for the audience than it is to play for ourselves, and it is not that difficult to convince them than it is to convince us. We need to justify everything that we do on stage, that is, interpreting and presenting a piece of music to the audience, with our own ifs and given circumstances. This is where the, as brief as it was possible, portion of the video ends, and keep watching to learn more details of what I have already mentioned briefly. And I'm also going to present a few additional ideas regarding the dangers of exaggerated performance, and also what we can learn from children at the playgrounds in order to be more fearless with our performances on the stage. I suggest that you take a note of this sentence you just saw on your screens and reflect on it. Think about it when you have spare time, or even pause this video right now and write some things down in your journals on a piece of paper in front of you. This idea is connected to playing in general, something I was mentioning a few videos ago, and playing in general and its dangers is connected to the sense of truth. Let's read together what Stanislavsky had to say about this. When the actor, as a human being, has no need to do what he or she is doing, when the role and the acting are not directed towards the purpose they should be serving, then those actions are empty. They are not experienced. They communicate nothing essential. Then nothing remains but to do things in general. when all these things are done because they are written and not because they are experienced in the heart. Then the actor has nowhere to go, and then playing in general is the only way out for the actor. So once again, my phrase is, we shouldn't play what is on the page just because it is on the page. I'm not advocating towards disrespecting composers. I'm simply advocating to looking for reasons of why those notes are there on the page in the way how they are on the page. Filling up our story behind the piece of music in a logical and sequential way and having a genuine sense of truth in it is going to help us to experience concrete emotions and not just playing something in general. Now, I want to connect the sense of truth to the actions. And from the first part of the video, do we still remember what the actions are? It's everything we can hear, all the sounds and all the silences. So now, ultimately, it's not about the actions alone. It's not just about phrasing, balancing, what sort of covers, how loud, how soft. But it is a matter of the truth and belief in these actions helping to arouse feelings and emotions that are necessary to express the piece in the truthful manner. So to reiterate, for us, truth and belief that all of our choices make sense, correspond and interact with each other logically and organically. Approaching our practicing or our workflow in such way, I believe, can also help to alleviate some of the issues that are related to imposter syndrome. Logical, organic line of the development or evolvement of the emotions throughout the piece is important not just for us as interpreters or performers, but also for the audience. The audience, as they listen to the performance, they will subconsciously feel the continuity of the automatic process of the narrative opening up in front of their eyes or their ears. The fluidity of logic and sequence of events and how one is connected to another, or one is the result and outcome of the other. There is a link, a connection between us and the audience. If we are interested in what we are doing, they're going to be interested. If we are convinced and believe and committed in what we are doing, they will be moved as well. Moving on, we must first think about what and why something is on the page the way it is. Then carry out the action. Experiment with the phrasing, things like this. Let me repeat. We must first think about what it is on the page that's written and why it is there. I realize I was saying similar sentences before, but I truly believe it's a very important point to sometimes just slow down and think about what we're about to play, not just play at all times and make choices at all times that at times don't correspond to each other, don't help to progress the character, the emotion further, or where it needs to be by the time it's a secondary theme, and so on. This way, thanks to the logic and sequence of what you do, you approach truth by a natural path, and from truth you go to belief, and thence to genuine experience. Before wrapping up this video, I just have 2 more points to bring to your attention, and they are all connected to the topics I was discussing thus far. And actually, the entire system is very interconnected. You get to pick and choose what to use at a given moment, but then everything is connected to another thing. So Stanislavsky warns us against forcing our emotions, as if we try to, he believes, and from his experience, if we try to force our inspiration while not actually feeling inspired, and if we try to force our emotions or try to produce fake emotions, then we are likely to come up with play acting, or stock in trade kind of playing, or mannerisms. This is particularly important to keep in mind when we are playing something, the style of music that is not close to our heart, that we are not very familiar with. By using some of the elements of the system, even those few that I have discussed so far, we will be able to look deeper into the score and try to find something that's going to resonate with us. Therefore, we are likely to be able to experience what we're playing rather than focusing on making it look to others as if we are experiencing it. I hope it makes sense. However, similarly, he warns regarding the intellectual approach. He says if the intellectual approach dominates, and if the actor places too much emphasis on playing, on acting the truth, it will lead to an exaggerated performance. Similarly, focusing on acting as a process, focusing on performance as a process, as opposed to focusing on experiencing the emotions, the story, and then conveying that story through experiencing, through personal feeling. Thoughts and questions like, am I truthful here? Am I correct here? Am I entertaining enough? Is the audience wowed, impressed by what I do? For us musicians, just one extra point, this process can look like focusing too much attention, putting too much attention on the textual, on the accuracy of the text or accuracy for interpretation. When we focus on all of the markings that are in the score, or as we are playing at the concert, or as we're at the rehearsal, or as we're in the seminar setting, if we put any thoughts into what our teacher is thinking about what we are doing, once again, in the middle of supposedly, allegedly experiencing other experiences, in the middle of the performance, thinking about what others think about us, and thus trying to correct what we do by being extra tight, strict, to produce more accurate outcomes. All of that is emphasis on truth, which is out of balance. And last point for this video is, as you can see from the slide, children have a great ability to believe in things that are relevant to the game they participate in and ignore anything that doesn't add up to the play. He was describing the children at the playground coming up with games and choosing what to believe in, if the truck is real, if the sand is real, or if the castle is real and the paper dragon is actually going to destroy that castle. I'm making up the story based on the concepts that he was providing in the chapter. So for us, perhaps it can be a mix of 2 or 3 things that we can relearn from children, or that we can try to remember from our past, from our inner child in ourselves. The mix is as follows. We can believe in our ability to execute, which is the ability to present the piece of music to the audience in the most genuine, authentic, beautiful, favorable to the music way. Also, it could be believing in the actuality of this story and the emotions that we are experiencing and the ones that we are conveying. Speaking of ignoring part, we can relearn from children at the play how to ignore our nerves, how to ignore any extra noises from the audience, falling keychains, maybe coughs, maybe serious faces of the jury members at the auditions or competitions, and any other factors. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you're finding these videos becoming increasingly useful as we actually starting to delve into the elements of the system. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, happy learning.